Hello, and welcome back to Pleistocene Park. Today, we're going to be creating our very own Stonehenge. In the last video, we officially named the park. This wildlife reserve is now starting to come together. We also created our own Ice Age village, a chance for our guests to see what life was like for our early ancestors. And now it is time for us to build one of the most recognisable prehistoric structures ever made. Okay, let us begin our Stonehenge. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in a giant circle for a template where to put our rocks. Rather than guess and try and make our rocks into a circle and it be all wonky, it's better to just put in a template. So I've used flooring here on the game. There are little semicircles that you can put together to make a circle, and I've just made it really, really big, and then I can use that to give me an idea where to put the stones. And you can see there I'm also lining up the sunrise and the sunset. Many archaeologists believe that things like this Stonehenges were used as calendars for the sunrise and the sunset, where the stones' shadows would cast. That's what some people believe anyway, but I don't know, it does seem like a lot of effort to go to make a calendar. So I think there was a bigger purpose here, something more, there was something more to it than just a huge calendar. Maybe it was something to do with religion, a religious site, or maybe, I don't know, some kind of ceremony that they would have had, would have taken place here. No one really knows. But yeah, there are many different henges. Stonehenge, the one in England, is the most famous, just because of how large it is and how intact it is. But there are many different stone circles all around the world that you can find, and they are very, very interesting. But what's most incredible is that these rocks, some of them weighed up to, I think it's 30 tons. It's a hell of a lot of effort to go to make this structure, and it's not helping you in any way, really. It's not it's not going to give you any food, it's not going to give you any shelter. It's a lot of effort to go to just to make this huge structure. So it must have been very important to them, whatever it was. It probably may have been something to do with religious beliefs. So yes. But anyway, let's get some facts up about Stonehenge. Let's have a look what we've got. So it is believed to have been built around 5,000 years ago. So this is after the Ice Age, actually. We're now going into the Stone Age. Hence, we're starting to build. Our ancestors are building now with stones, not just wood and thatch. They're moving to the Stone Age, so they're progressing. So the Ice Age ended 11,500 years ago. So now we're talking 5,000 years ago when this was built. So were there still mammoths around at this time? Well, they actually were, believe it or not. The mammoths' heyday was around 20,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago, their numbers were reducing, and their populations were clinging on to the coasts of Siberia and Alaska. So at this point they were starting to go extinct. They were starting to, the populations were starting to decline, and around 4,000 years ago they were completely gone. That's incredible, isn't it? When you think 4,000 years ago, it's not that long 4,000 years is a long time, but when you think, in the whole time the Earth's been around, 4,000 years is just a blink of an eye, really. So the mammoths, you know, they haven't long left us. But yes, so the Stonehenge was built around 5,000 years ago. We're now moving into the Stone Age. Now I know that it's, you know, this is Pleistocene Park, and we're, you know, it's an Ice Age build, but this kind of shows, you know, where time is going, where our ancestors are going. So our guests will have just walked out of that Ice Age settlement, and then we can see where our ancestors are going from there into the Stone Age. So I think it does suit, you know, it does suit the park still. But yes, more facts. Let's have a look. How heavy were these huge boulders of rock, and how on earth did they build this incredible structure as well? So the average stone weighs about 25 tons. Wow, that's about the same amount as a diplodocus. That's really, really heavy. And the largest stones, the ones that are in the middle, those big chunky ones, weigh about 30 tons. Now, this is a lot of effort to just bring, you know, these huge stones, and not just to drag them here, but also to lift them on top of each other, which is just, you know, it's incredible when you think there were no cranes around at this time, there was no technology to help them. How on earth did they manage to lift these heavy stones into place? And also, there was more than just, you know, balancing them on top of each other. Each stone that is sticking upwards with one balancing on top, they had like a carved pin, and the stone that lies on top of that had a hole in it for that pin to stick into. So if there was strong winds or an earth tremor, they'd be locked in place. So they really did put a lot of effort into this, but it still is a mystery how it was made. Some people believe that they used like ramps or sticks to try and move the boulders inch by inch to try and get them on top of each other. But still, it really is, you know, very impressive how they've managed to do this. It would have took a very long time to make. In fact, let's see how long it took to actually build. What are we thinking? How long? Any guesses? Oh my god. Well, what do you think? 100 years maybe? No, not even close. 200? 300? No. It says approximately 1,500 years to make. So imagine this, you start helping in your tribe to build this structure, and you don't even see the finished result. You only see part of it. So this was something that went on for generations and generations. People didn't live as long back then, so they would have only seen part of it being made. For it to go on for 1,500 years, that's so many generations. It's incredible. So it must have meant a lot to them. They must have been very dedicated to this cause. I wonder what it was that they believed they were doing. What did they think they were doing? It can't have just been a huge calendar. There must have been some kind of ceremony, or maybe some kind of religion. You know, maybe they were worshipping some kind of god. I don't know. There are a lot of theories out there. Some people even think aliens, were they trying to connect with something in the sky and the stars? Who knows? You don't know, do you? Who knows what it was? But yes, it's a marvelous structure, and it really is incredible how they managed to do it. It's more incredible because of how they've done it without any technology. You know, how have they managed to create such a structure? You know, 30 tons of rock. It's just incredible. Oh, and here we're just going to connect our henge to the Ice Age village. So I'm just going to put in a nice stream here that's going to go into the lake, and we'll have a little bridge crossing over it, leading the guests from the Ice Age settlement over to the Stone Age henge over here. So it's like they're walking through time. But yes, it is an amazing structure. It really is incredible. And here's one thing that I found very interesting: the big stones in the middle. I think it's 2 of them anyway. They've been able to do studies on the rocks and find out where this stone came from. And amazingly, they came from Wales. So where Stonehenge actually is, in fact, let me find out the exact location of where Stonehenge is. Right, so Stonehenge is located in Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, England, so right at the bottom of the UK. Now, the stones, they did studies on the rock, and they found that the big stones in the middle were actually different types of rock than the ones on the outside. So the ones on the outside were found down south in England, still a long way to get them there to where they needed to put them. But the big ones came from South Wales. Now, they've actually looked at rocks and found where it looks like they've actually took out the rock. You can see a big chunk of the rock missing where it looks like they've carved out the stone. And the estimated journey for these people that were carrying these rocks was 120 miles. I mean, that is a long way to drag a 30-ton stone. So I wonder how long this would actually take. Well, I've just been looking here. Now it says the average person walks about 4 to 3 miles per hour. Let's say 4, okay? So I've done a little bit of maths and working out if they were continuously walking at 4 miles an hour, how long would it take them to walk 220 miles? So we're talking 2 days and 7 hours. But of course, you're not just going to walk for 2 days and 7 hours with no sleep or any rest. So let's add some sleep. So you need about 8 hours sleep a night. You probably need about 20 after shifting that boulder around all day. So if we add all that in for 3 days, that's at least another day. So we're talking 3 days and 7 hours. Then we need to add on pit stops, toilet stops. They need to hunt and get food. They wouldn't be carrying food with them. They'd have to stop and hunt. So that could take a long time to do. That could take hours just to find something to eat. So we're definitely talking, oh my goodness. I mean, and also that's just walking. These guys would not be walking. They would be pushing this up a hill. They probably came across wolves, bears along the way, had to defend themselves. This could have taken months. In fact, it probably did take months. It may have even taken longer. It could have took maybe even a year. I'm trying to think of how long this would have taken. This huge stone, 30 tons, pushing it for 120 miles. It's mind-boggling to think of how long this would have taken. This would have been an expedition that was like no other. I mean, it just is absolutely amazing. I'm trying to get a sense of scale of time. Like I know we've got 3 days there, but then you're thinking, how long are they actually taking to get 1 mile done? How long is that taking? Because they're not going to walk 4 miles in an hour like an average person. They're probably going to do 1 mile maybe a day. Maybe not even that. It might be like a couple of meters in a day. It's just extraordinary, really mind-boggling to try and get your head around how long this would have taken and the efforts it would have taken. I bet there were a lot of accidents trying to get this thing over hills. They probably would have even taken longer because they would have had to go round mountains and through valleys and try and find the safest route. But, it is extraordinary. What were they doing it for? What was this massive effort for? I mean, what do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. What did you think Stonehenge, was made for? God, I can't even speak. I need a drink. Let me go and get a sip of my drink over here. Ah, that's better. So, yeah, imagine you get back to the camp. You've brought your 30-ton stone with you. Everyone's pleased to see you. Oh, I haven't seen you in however long, a year maybe. Haven't seen you in years. How's the monument getting on? Oh, we're doing very well. If you could just go back to South Wales and get another stone. We need another one from South Wales. Imagine. In fact, you'd probably say no. Another team's going now. They can go. We're going to sit here and have a... And think, when you've got the stone there, that's not even where it ends. You've then got to get the stone in place. You've got to lift the stone up into position, dig a hole to put it in, to slot it in. Then you've got to lift another rock to get that on top and balance it. I mean, my God, it really is incredible. It really is outstanding how they managed to do this. But you know what? There's one more thing that's got me particularly puzzled. As if this wasn't hard enough, why go all that way? You know, there's plenty of rocks lying about. Why choose to go all the way to South Wales to get your stones? Well, I've been looking at what types of rock they are, because they're very particular. You know, they won't just use any rock. They're very particular about the stones they were using. So the stones here, they say the larger sarsen stones and the smaller blue stones were a type of rock called silcrete rock, which is found scattered across southern England naturally. So if it's scattered about, why have they gone all the way there to get it? I don't know, but a bit more investigation on these stones. They've done some CT scanning, X-rays on the stones as well, and they've done some microscopic analysis and other techniques, it says, and they discovered that the stones are made up of sand-sized quartz grains, which is a type of crystal, a white crystal. Now, it says that they are cemented tightly together by an interlocking. Now, this is very interesting. So it seems that these stones, they're not just, you know, big lumps of rock. They actually have a quartz crystal in them. Could this be a reason they were choosing them? Did they have, you know, a particular desire to choose this type of stone because it had quartz? I don't know, but they do seem, you know, very picky about the stones they're using. They're not just using any. They are picking stones that did, you know, they're willing to travel halfway across the country to make sure they get the right stones. What was the effort for? You know, they wanted the perfect stones. They would travel miles to get them, and then they would build this incredible structure that took 1,500 years to make. It's a massive mystery. What was it for? It can't just be a calendar. I'm not having it. It can't just be a calendar. There's got to be something else. There's a mystery here. What was it for? God, I'd love to know. I'd love to go back in time and see exactly what this was used for. I really would. It's a great mystery of our time. Very, very interesting. It's like the pyramids, isn't it? You know, the pyramids, and that was being built while the mammoths were around. The pyramids is older than Stonehenge, and that was being built while mammoths were still roaming the earth. That's incredible, isn't it? You know, mammoths roaming about. I wonder if this probably isn't true, but imagine. I remember seeing this in 10,000 BC. I think it's called a film, and they show the pyramids being built in this film, and the mammoths are helping build the pyramids. The mammoths are dragging huge, boulders up massive ramps. They've got loads of elephants with rope on them dragging up these rocks. Imagine that. Imagine if the mammoths were used to bring these rocks up. I doubt that. I don't think we'd started taming animals at that point. I'm not sure. But taming a mammoth, that would be quite something. But yeah, imagine if that's what it was all along, the secret. We got mammoths to make Stonehenge. Who knows? But what was it for? That's what I want to know. Let me know. Give your ideas down below why you think this was made. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a purpose. Are they not telling us something? Is there something they found and they're not telling us why this has been put here, why it was built? I don't know. But yes, share your ideas down below. Discuss. So, what techniques were they using to move these giant rocks? Well, when you go to Stonehenge, there's actually a large rock, not as large as the ones that are actually being used for Stonehenge, but there is still a large rock, reasonably heavy, and they actually have built like a bit of a sledge with big logs attached to it and ropes wrapped around it, and they were doing experiments to see if they could get people that were just coming to visit, if they could move it. And they did manage to move it, but it took a lot of effort. So everyone would push on each beam and try and drag it across the plain. But that's just a small rock. So these larger rocks, they must have just had a lot of people doing it, or possibly mammoths. But no, they must have had a lot of people pushing on that rock. But the hardest bit would probably be constructing the actual thing. And this is a bit of a mystery. How did they get the rocks up? Some people think ramps. Some people think just by shifting the weight and moving it by using logs and other things, tilting it around. There's one guy that was trying to solve the mystery, and he was practicing with big lumps. I think they were big lumps of concrete that weighed about a similar amount of weight that these stones do. And he was practicing by just using balance and leverage as well, and lots of different techniques, and he makes it look very, very easy. And he was doing this all by himself and with no mechanical technology. What was his name now? His name is Wally Wallington. So this he's a genius, because he's figured out how to move giant objects. He even moves a house with this technology. I think it was a giant barn. So they take away the foundation at the bottom and balance it on wood and levers, and then he manages to twist and turn the objects in the direction he wants to turn them. But getting them to actually stand up, this was a really good technique. It was like he put bits of wood underneath the big slab of stone, and it was a bit like a big seesaw. So then he'd run to one side and put weight so the rock would tilt like a big seesaw, then shove a bit of wood underneath, then run to the other side, put some weight on there, and as the weight went back and to, he'd add bits of wood. So eventually he got the height up, and then when he wanted to fully tilt it to drop into the hole, he'd just slowly use leverage to pull it down, and then it would slot into the hole, and he did it all by himself. So it is doable. If you've got a lot of people to help you as well, you get it done quicker. So maybe that's the technique these were using, these people. Maybe they were using leverage, balance, and many other different techniques. But it is very interesting, how you when you put your mind to it, you can get things like this done. You can, achieve great things. So yes, very interesting indeed. And it's amazing, 5,000 years later, and it's still standing. after all that time, it's not as it would have originally been. It would have been a huge stone circle like the one that we built here. But over time, some of those rocks have fallen over, so it's more now of a ruin, but still some rocks are still standing with the rocks balancing on top of them, which is absolutely incredible. But yes, a fascinating sight indeed. And now we're just going to build this cliff area where the guests can look over into the actual reserve where the animals are living. And here I'm thinking they can look over this cliff edge to the Mammoth Meadows, I'm thinking. So this will be a bit more, less of a grassland and more of different plants, bushes, so they can get a bit of a different variation in their diet. So I'm thinking of having another herd over here. So yeah, we're going to put maybe a watering hole over here for them. A different type of habitat, because we don't just want it grassland and forest. I think a meadow would do well, and maybe a marshland somewhere as well for them to get a variety of different plants and vegetation for their diet, and plenty of space to roam as well. And just fill in the snow here, make it blend in with the rocks, the terrain. Lovely. And I've just thought as well, I know we've done the Ice Age village and then we've done the Stone Age, so we've gone from the Ice Age to the Stone Age. I'm thinking we should have really put something in to do with caves. Before we went to living in these huts and houses, we were living in caves. So I'm thinking maybe somewhere at the beginning of the park, the guests can maybe walk through a cave, make it look like somewhere where our ancestors would have lived, so they can see how our ancestors have progressed over time. They were living in caves, they've gone to the village, and now they're creating huge stone henges like this. And here we're just going to finish off the bridge. Nice little rope bridge. Lovely. Beautiful stuff. So we're coming close to the end of this build now. All I want to do next is to put some lights in for the Stonehenge, because the park is open, quite late, I'd imagine. You can go on nighttime safaris and see what the animals get up to, but also I think it would look nice, the lighting shining on the rocks at night. I'm just thinking what colour to go for, because you can choose whatever colour lights in this game you want. So I was a bit torn, I didn't know what to use. I liked the green colour, the green looked very mysterious, but the blue looks rather nice as well, and even just the warm white lights look very nice. So we'll put that in at the end of the video, I think, and all that is starting to look rather nice. Just corner that off so the guests don't be tempted to go and dip their toes in the river and then get swept down into the reserve. That's looking good, and we'll put a sign here. I need to put some writing on this sign with a big arrow saying Stonehenge this way. And here we're just going to have another viewing platform that's looking over the frozen lake there. You can see all the ice. And what I've done is I've actually brought the ground up there on part of the lake, because I want it to look solid, as if it's, you could actually walk on that bit. It's frozen solid, and the other bits around it are breaking up a bit. Where the river is flowing a bit more strongly, that bit's broken up the ice. So you'll get a good view from up here over the frozen lake. The animals are quite far away, but the landscape itself, it's beautiful enough. You get a good lovely view there of the landscape, get a nice photo, get a nice selfie on this bridge, and we'll put some benches in so they can have a sit down, and some bins, and of course some binoculars to get a good view from far away at those magnificent animals. And then a few trees just to blend in the environment a bit more. And you have to place every tree here individually because there's rocks, so you've got to get them, you know, the right height. You can't just brush them in. And a few elm trees in there just to give a nice variety of trees. And corner off this section. Lovely. So it's all coming together now. I'm rather liking this now, the way it's looking, this build. We'll make this here look like a big chunk of rock has fell off the cliff. Some boulders have fell in as well. Oh, and here we're just going to put in some stone benches to suit the theme, where the guests can just sit back and marvel at the marvellous engineering of our ancestors. I mean, obviously this isn't actually a prehistoric site, but that's why we're not putting any fencing around. They can actually go into the stone circle and walk around it, so they can really get close up and personal with it. When you actually go to Stonehenge, you're not allowed to go up to the stones. You have to look from a distance. I get that, they're trying to, you know, they don't want anyone graffitiing or doing any damage. And this shop we're just going to put in as a little discovery centre, just with some information, a bit like a museum, explaining how the Stonehenge was built. And now it's time to put on the light show. So I went with warm white for the outside, and in the middle I'm going to go for a nice blue colour. You can see there I can't decide which one to put in. I do think the blue looks rather nice though. So there you have it. Our Stonehenge is finally complete. A great place for our guests to explore, learn, and get some fantastic shots of this incredible structure. Maybe they could come here to see a firework display or a light show, or maybe even hire it out for a special event such as a wedding. Whatever it's for, whenever it is, whoever you are, Pleistocene Park has something for everyone. Book your tickets now to Pleistocene Park. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and comment your ideas for the park down below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens in Pleistocene Park next.